why you can never be happy forever and why that's good. Imagine pushing a boulder up a hill over and over, knowing it will always roll back down. Sisyphus, the Greek figure condemned to this fate, embodies the pursuit of happiness. We chase it, grab a fleeting moment, but soon enough, the high fades and we're back where we started. So, if endless happiness is impossible, does that mean we're just living in perpetual disappointment? Or is there something deeper we're overlooking? A reason that this continuous cycle might actually be good for us?
And what happens, unfortunately, a lot of people struggle through their whole lives to make money. They make some, they're exhausted, and then they're like, well, now why am I not happy? I guess I'm just not a happy person, and smart people aren't happy. That's like a great little way to people feel better about it. They say, well, if you're smart, you're not happy.
Why it's impossible to be happy forever. One big reason we can't hold on to happiness is the hedonic treadmill.
What's thrilling to people and the possibility that one day they'll be able to rest and that they'll have reached this goal.
That's the fundamental delusion, that there is something out there that will make me happy and fulfilled forever.
Yeah, the golden years.
There is. It's called death.
Oh.
That'll take care of everything. That's the great leveler.
But when people look at particularly social media, let's bring it back to that, when you see someone who, you see them posed in front of their mansion with their beautiful car and they're leaning against it with their designer clothes on, their expensive watch. You go, I want that.
Right.
That's what I want.
Anything you wanted in your life, whether it was a car or whether it was a girl or whether it was money, when you got it, a year later, you were back to zero. Your brain had hedonically adapted to it, and you were looking for the next thing.
That's a great statement. Hedonically adapted. That is what happens to people. When I first got a new apartment, it was a nice apartment. After a while, I got used to it. I was like, oh, okay. This is just an apartment. It's just where I live. I'm used to it. It's nice, but I'm used to it.
Yeah, we all go through this learning. It's riding the Ferris wheel of life. It's like you get at the bottom, you're like, oh, I want to get to the top. This is so exciting. You ride it up, you get a little dopamine rush, and get a little serotonin. Then you ride it back down as that wears off. Then you need another high. Then you ride it back up, and you ride it back down. And in fact, the more highs you get, the harder it gets to go around the wheel. And the more bored you get of it, the harder it goes to go back up.
Think of it like a track that only leads us back to our baseline. No matter how far we run, you land a new job, get a raise, or fall in love. At first it's exhilarating, but over time you adjust and that spark dims. Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation. And it's at the core of Buddhist teachings like anicca, which reminds us that all things, including joy, are temporary. It's a cycle that's necessary. If we stayed on the high from one achievement, we wouldn't keep moving forward. We wouldn't seek new challenges. And in a way, this temporary happiness keeps us reaching for more, forcing us to evolve. The Dunning-Kruger Effect. Now, the Dunning-Kruger Effect complicates things further. We often overestimate how much we know about happiness. We think, I know exactly what will make me happy. But our understanding is rarely that simple. Imagine someone who thinks money is the ultimate answer. They chase wealth, but once they have it, they realize they were wrong. Our limited understanding leads us down misguided paths. And because we don't know what we don't know, we repeat the cycle, still searching, still not satisfied. And then there's the focusing illusion. This is the trap of believing that one big change, like a promotion, a new relationship, or moving cities, will unlock lasting happiness. But by putting all our energy on one thing, we ignore everything else that matters. Take Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It shows that true well-being comes from a balance, relationships, security, self-esteem. Pinning all our hopes on one element of life blinds us to this, making fulfillment even harder to grasp. The paradox of choice. Now let's talk about choices. In theory, having choices should make us happy, right? But the paradox of choice suggests the opposite. More options lead to more second-guessing, more what-ifs, and ultimately more dissatisfaction. Imagine being in an ice cream shop with 50 flavors. You finally choose one, but the moment you taste it, you're thinking, what if the other one was better? Instead of happiness, we get regret, anxiety, and the nagging sense that we've missed out. More choice doesn't mean more joy. It can rather mean more confusion. Seeing what we want to see, the confirmation bias. And yet, despite the reality checks life offers, confirmation bias keeps us clinging to old beliefs. If someone's convinced that fame or wealth is the ultimate happiness, they'll notice every happy celebrity, ignoring any evidence to the contrary. This selective focus keeps us chasing the wrong things. We're running in circles, held back by the belief that our initial hunch was correct, even if reality keeps suggesting otherwise. Existential nihilism. All this brings us to existential nihilism, the notion that life, in itself, may lack inherent meaning. Happiness isn't guaranteed, and if there's no greater purpose, chasing happiness feels pointless. But is that such a bad thing? This perspective shifts focus away from happiness and toward creating personal meaning. Rather than seeing life as a happiness race, we can see it as a blank canvas, a chance to find purpose on our terms, beyond mere pleasure.
The peace that we seek is not peace of mind, it's peace from mind. Right? So if you look at all the crazy activities you do to be happy, right? Whether it's like trying to get laid and have an orgasm, or, extreme sports, or looking at something beautiful, or taking a psychedelic, you're trying to get out of your own mind. You're trying to get your monkey mind to stop chattering at you for a moment. You're trying to get peace from the mind.
Fear of losing happiness, the happiness paradox, and finally, there's the happiness paradox, the fear of losing happiness itself. Have you ever been so happy that you start to worry about it ending? This clinging tightens into anxiety, a fear that this moment of joy might be our last. Ironically, trying to protect happiness actually takes it away. The paradox shows that to be happy, we can't hold on to it too tightly, and perhaps we shouldn't even aim to. Why all this is good. We've explored why constant happiness is a myth, how our minds, beliefs, and even society push us to seek an elusive ideal that's impossible to hold. But if perpetual happiness isn't the answer, what is? Maybe it's time to consider that a life filled only with happiness might actually rob us of something essential. As counterintuitive as it seems, hardship, struggle, and even sadness can lead us to a richer, more meaningful life. Let's look at why the obstacles and challenges we face might actually be the very things that help us thrive.
Your real resume is just a cataloging of all your suffering, right? If I were to ask you to describe your real life to yourself, when you look back on your deathbed, you're going to go back and say, what are the interesting things I've done? And it's all going to be around the sacrifices that you made and the hard things that you did. Anything you're given doesn't matter.
Existential growth through suffering. Think about the darkest moments in your life. They were painful and maybe you wouldn't want to relive them, but didn't they teach you something invaluable? Nietzsche's concept of Amor, Fati, the love of one's fate, suggests that true resilience and strength come from embracing life as it is, pain and all, rather than avoiding hardship. Nietzsche believed that we should see suffering as a transformative force, one that builds character and deepens our understanding of ourselves and the world. Without struggles, we'd miss out on this vital process of growth, remaining static and ultimately unfulfilled.
どれだけ世界が残酷でも関係ない。戦え戦え戦え戦え。
Hedonia versus Eudaimonia. Aristotle, too, had a view on happiness that might surprise us today. He distinguished between two types of happiness: Hedonia, which is the pursuit of pleasure, and Eudaimonia, which is a deeper, purpose-driven happiness that comes from self-realization. Hedonia can be short-lived, much like the fleeting happiness we chase on the hedonic treadmill. But Eudaimonia, the satisfaction that comes from meaningful work, relationships, and personal growth, is lasting. It's not a thrill, nor a peak, but a deep-rooted fulfillment that can withstand life's challenges. Think of it as the difference between having a garden of quick-blooming flowers versus an oak tree, strong and enduring.
एक दिल होता है कलाकार का, एक पर्सनालिटी होती है। तू सबकी जिंदगी उठा के देख ले, जितने भी है ना, संगीतकार, गायक, आर्टिस्ट, पेंटर, राइटर, देख ले तू। एक ऐसी चीज है जो इन सब में कॉमन मिलेगी तुझे। क्या? वो तो होती है ना, देख ले तू। क्या घटाना भाई? हाँ? पेन, दुख, दर्द, आंसू। जब तक तकलीफ ना हो ना लाइफ में, तब तो कोई बड़ा नहीं बनता है।
Creativity comes from suffering. It's often in our hardest times that we're driven to create. Whether it's writing, painting, or even problem solving, creativity can be a direct response to pain. Imagine the greatest works of art or music. They rarely come from unbroken happiness. Struggle pushes us to express, to seek understanding, and to find ways to communicate what's beyond words. If we were in a state of constant happiness, what need would we have to create? This drive to make something out of our struggles gives our lives meaning, as our creations can inspire others, spark conversation, and bring shared understanding. Psychological stagnation and loss of identity.
You know, look at the kids who are born rich, no meaning to their lives.
It's a terrible place.
Too much comfort can lead to a kind of psychological stagnation, where we stop growing and lose our sense of identity. Look at those born into extreme privilege, where they want for nothing and face little challenge. Many end up grappling with a lack of purpose, turning to unhealthy habits just to feel something. Without hardship to shape us, we risk losing the parts of ourselves that are forged in adversity. Struggle gives us an identity. It allows us to define who we are in the face of a challenge, and without it, we lose the depth of self-understanding that hardship brings.
बहुत बेइंसान सबने बिट्टू, चोटें लगी, तड़पे दर्द से छटपटाए, तकलीफें, ट्रेजेडी गुजरी इन पर।
Formation of connection and empathy. Lastly, hardship connects us to each other. When we experience pain, we gain the ability to empathize with others' struggles. Think of friendships that have deepened over shared experiences, or the comfort we find in knowing we're not alone in our pain. Struggle builds bridges. It creates a bond that pure happiness can't replicate because true connection often grows in the shared understanding of life's harder moments. We find camaraderie in our vulnerability, and this empathy not only helps us build meaningful relationships, but also brings a sense of purpose and fulfillment that pure pleasure could never achieve.
बहुत साल पहले यहाँ एक जंगल होता था, घना भयानक जंगल। फिर यहाँ एक शहर बन गया, साफ सुथरे मकान, सीधे रास्ते, सब कुछ तरीके से होने लगा। पर जिस दिन जंगल कटा, उस दिन परिंदों का एक झुंड यहां से हमेशा के लिए उड़ गया, कभी नहीं लौटा। मैं उन परिंदों को ढूंढ रहा हूं। किसी ने देखा है उन्हें? देखा?
So here's the takeaway. The pursuit of happiness doesn't have to mean eliminating sadness, discomfort, or struggle. True contentment might lie in accepting the full range of human experience, allowing happiness, sorrow, and everything in between to shape us into fuller, more resilient people. Instead of asking, how can I be happy forever? We might ask, how can I make the most of each moment, happy or not? Since pain and sadness are inevitable, there's value in simply being present in those moments rather than resisting or layering on the extra question, why am I so sad? Sometimes this inner questioning only adds more weight to our suffering. By being present with our pain, we can avoid amplifying it, allowing each emotion its space and ultimately finding peace in the ebb and flow of life itself. Because life isn't meant to be one continuous note of joy, it's a symphony, a blend of highs and lows that, together, create a deeply meaningful experience.